From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey, good Tuesday evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we? Welcome back to yet another installment of the Tuesday Evening Live. This is becoming one of my favorite kind of installations of the show. Honestly, the biggest reason for that is the little chat feature. It's so much fun to actually watch people in real time kind of react to and process and disagree with or agree with or make fun of anything I'm saying. So by all means, I encourage you to do that. The X feature is right there, the chat feature. I'm watching it. I've got technically two eyes on it right now. I would love to hear feedback on the show, on the topics, whatever. If you want to throw something out there that you think I should mention, by all means, put it in the chat. Let me know. I would love to hear from you. We got a lot to talk about today. This episode is going to be focused primarily on the socialists, those dirty commies. It's probably going to get a little bit more serious later in the show, but I will try to keep it light. It's kind of weird because on the one hand, communism and socialism are like objectively stupid, and the people who profess them are equally stupid and should be made fun of for being stupid. But on the other hand, it's kind of a serious thing. It has to be taken at least a little bit seriously because socialism and communism have and will unfortunately probably continue to kill a whole lot of people. So, you know, there's a balance that has to be struck there. So we're going to do our best to do that. Brad says, "What's up, Ethan?" What's up, Brad? What's up, Brad? Good to see you again. But before we get into the socialism, anything important, let's do another update on the Cyclospora, or however that's pronounced. I think I'm getting that right. I think it's Cyclospora. That is the parasite that has infected the lettuce and is giving people the runs, as it were. I have to be careful of how I say things because I don't want to be too vulgar, but we're all familiar with the diarrhea incident going around. So we've talked about this in the past. I want to talk about it real quick because we have some updates. The update, essentially, from what I understand from Breitbart, is we thought we found a cause. Turns out we actually didn't find a cause. And also, the Democrats say it's Donald Trump's fault because what else is new? Here's the article from Breitbart News. Democrats blame Trump for recalling Mexican lettuce causing explosive diarrhea. The little note that they have up here at the top is the lettuce that we called and recalled it. Turns out that wasn't actually the cause. We just thought it was. Oopsie daisies. But still maybe don't eat it anyway. A voluntary recall was issued for iceberg lettuce distributed to 27 states after federal health officials linked an explosive diarrhea parasite to the popular vegetable from its supplier in central Mexico. Meanwhile, some Democrats are blaming President Donald Trump for the frequent trips to the bathroom. The lettuce was being recalled by Taylor Farms. It's no longer being recalled. No deaths have been reported in the outbreak. Of course, like most any negative condition that makes headlines and impacts Americans, the problem was caused by Trump, according to a Democrat lawmaker and another who is running for Congress. Senator Pat Murray, a Democrat of Washington, posted a video on social media claiming the worst outbreak in U.S. history was caused by the president taking a wrecking ball to our public health infrastructure. We've actually got the video. Here it is. Let's take a listen.
Hear about the outbreak of parasites in our produce causing explosive diarrhea? It's real. Now, these outbreaks happen, but Trump made this one worse. There is a federal program specifically for tracking parasites like this, and it's called FoodNet. But when Trump took a wrecking ball to our federal government, they made it optional to track this parasite along with other foodborne illnesses. And don't forget, they pushed out thousands of public health experts at the CDC. And here we are, a year later, nearly 7,000 cases confirmed or under investigation and over 100 hospitalizations. Have a family member who thinks government doesn't touch their life? Well, here's a pretty real example of how it does and why your vote and your voice matters. Hear about the outbreak?
This is funny, and here's why it's funny. You notice that number there, 7,000 cases. Oh, and then she says, confirmed or investigated. Last time we talked about this, which was about a week ago, we were at a little over 1,000 cases confirmed and 500 being investigated. So I imagine we're probably still somewhere in that range. I bet you we probably have at this point maybe somewhere around 2,000 cases confirmed, and this is just guessing, and another several thousand being investigated. But even let's assume all 7,000 of those cases are confirmed. That's 7,000 people in the entire country. I made the point last time we talked about this. That's not a big deal. That doesn't matter. 7,000 cases. And notice, she says there's been a handful of people hospitalized. The only thing they're getting hospitalized for is dehydration. All they're doing when they're hospitalized for that is just hooking them up to IV fluids so they don't dehydrate and die. But nobody's dying of this. It is an inconvenience. For most, it's a fairly minor inconvenience. For some, it might be a little bit more of a major inconvenience. But at the end of the day, it's still just an inconvenience. And Democrats like Senator Pat Murray want you to believe that it's the end of the world and it's Trump's fault. She even makes the case, we had a program specifically for tracking this, and now look what's happening. Well, we're still tracking it. You gave us the data, which means we're still tracking it. So who cares? Obviously, it hasn't had any effect at all, Trump cutting these programs. It's just silliness. It's just silliness. That's all it is. This article continues, though. They mention the candidate that was up for election, Abdul El Sayed, who is running for Senate in Michigan, Democrat primary, implied on Friday that the administration was at fault for the abnormally crappy couple of months in the state caused by both the outbreak and the bad air quality in the Canadian wildfires. We talked about this too. Trump is somehow getting blamed for wildfires in Canada. I don't know if you know this, but we actually don't control Canada yet. We'll see what happens. All right, I got to take a quick break. We've got a couple of comments rolling in from Brad and Carnifex. By all means, keep them coming. We've got a lot more going on. We'll be right back after just a second. I'm Ethan Buchanan. This is the Next Gen Report. Stay tuned. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. All right, we got some comments rolling in. Brad and Carnifex. Brad says they should all be loaded onto a train. Carnifex added, and shipped to Cuba. I don't know if you're talking about the lettuce or the Democrats, but we'll see. We'll see. Patton was right, and then a salute emoji. All right, you're talking about the Democrats. I don't think Patton had too much to say about our lettuce outbreaks, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to dig into my World War II history a little bit more. Welcome back to the Next Gen Report Tuesday evening live, sponsored by Deus Volt lapel pins. Listen, these guys are fantastic. I've said it time and time again. These are the greatest lapel pins in the history of lapel pins. I wear one every single day. I'm wearing one right now. Anytime you've watched an episode of the Next Gen Report, I've been wearing a Deus Volt lapel pin because I love them. They look fantastic. They're high quality and they're not super expensive. If you're watching the stream right now, you see the price tags. Most of them are about $6, maybe $7, somewhere in that range. And they're all fantastic. On top of that, you can actually get 10% off. Use my promo code NEXTPIN2026. You will get 10% off your Deus Volt lapel pin order. They're already pretty cheap. So go in, pick 2 or 3 of your favorites, order them all, use that promo code, get a fantastic looking lapel pin. I mean, look at how good this thing looks. It looks fantastic. Get a fantastic lapel pin for a very decent price, or get several for a very decent price. Okay, Brad and Carnifex have both now confirmed that, yes, they were indeed talking about the communists. Fantastic. I'd like to add one person to that. As much as I love the idea of deporting the communists, I think we also need to deport people who deal with cyclospora outbreaks by bleaching their salad lettuce. I think those people should also be deported to Cuba. I'm not kidding. That's a real thing that happened. Here's the video.
So the CDC is saying that all produce is contaminated with parasites and all this other kind of stuff. And
That's not what they're saying. The CDC has not said that.
I'm just going to make sure I am protecting me and my household. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my lettuce before I eat it. I went ahead and just put my drainer in, sprayed it with some Dawn dish soap. I put just a capsule of bleach, and then I went ahead and sprayed it until I got all the suds and all the bleach out. Now, I did go ahead and clean it really well. I had to put my hands in it and make sure I really got everything off all of the leaves, because I do not want my kids or my husband to get the parasites. We cannot have anyone in the house sick. So I went ahead and thoroughly cleaned my produce. Now, listen, do what you want to do. This is what I'm doing in my household and what's safe for me and my family. I went ahead and patted it dry. And once it was all clean, I went ahead and plated our salad. We're having lettuce with a little Parmesan cheese, some croutons, and I had some blackened shrimp, and I topped it off. Y'all, it was a 10 out of 10. All in all, my lettuce was clean and healthy to eat. Bye, y'all.
I mean, it might have been clean, but that was not healthy to eat. Good Lord. I hope that that's satire. Because if not, she may have just killed her entire family. That is horrifying. Do not do that. I am not a doctor. I have never claimed to be a doctor. But if at any point your solution to any sort of medical outbreak at all is to bleach your lettuce and eat it, you have made a mistake. Go back, reevaluate. Good grief. I mean, it's got to be satire, but part of me deep down feels like she was being serious. It feels like she was being serious. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's talk about something equally silly, but I think in the short term, at least, a little bit less deadly, and that is James Talarico. Now, James Talarico is up against kind of a rock and a hard place here. In order for a Democrat to have a chance in hell at winning any statewide office in Texas, everything has to go perfect. You cannot miss a single detail. You cannot miss a single thing. You have to have every voter turn out. You have to have the Republicans do everything wrong that they possibly can. I mean, it's virtually impossible just because of how many different things have to go right in order for it to happen. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but it is virtually impossible. One of the things that you can't have happen is you can't have a huge portion of your voting base just decide to stay home because they don't like you. I mean, I'll point to the 2018 race between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke as the example. That was, I think, the closest the Democrats will ever get to a perfect race for them to take a statewide office in Texas. Trump was kind of at a low point in his popularity. It was the midterms. So those two things together work in favor of the Democrats because typically, as we all know, in a midterm election, the party in power will lose a little bit. And then on top of that, they had what was a really good candidate. I'll give Beto O'Rourke his credit there. He was a good candidate. He was a charismatic guy. He could fundraise. He could organize. He had everything he needed to have in order to win. And he got darn close. I think that race ended up being within 2-ish points, give or take. So, I mean, that's good by every measure. Probably the best they're going to get. Talarico is not that good. I mean, he can fundraise because Democrats will flush money down a toilet for whatever reason. It's a tax write-off. So, you know, the billionaire class and the kind of left-wing mega donors, they have no problem throwing up money at James Talarico. But he is not a particularly good organizer from what I've seen. He kind of relies on down-ballot candidates that are good organizers to put things together, and he just sort of piggybacks off of them. And then on top of that, he's not overly charismatic. He's also made a name for himself in the legislature, which isn't a good idea because now you've got a record and people can point at your record and tell you you're terrible. Beto O'Rourke did not necessarily have that problem because he had managed to be kind of an unknown in the state Senate for a while. Talarico has been very vocal and active in the Texas House, so people know who he is. That's a problem for him as well. But anyway, the crowning jewel on the, I guess, crown of problems that James Talarico has is, like Brad says, one, he can't get out of his own way, and two, he just cannot motivate black voters. He just can't. At every turn, he seems to be at odds with them. I think part of that is because the Democrats love to play racial politics, so you had an allegedly straight white man running against a black woman, and then he won, and she immediately went out and started crying racism. We've talked about that on the show. The maybe not majority, but a big enough amount of the black Democrat base is going to believe that. When you cry racism, they will believe you to a certain extent. And I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying every black Democrat or every black person, but there is a big enough amount of black people in the Democrat Party that when Jasmine Crockett says Talarico won because of racism, they believe her. So the issue for James Talarico then becomes, okay, well, how do I convince them that, no, I didn't just win because of racism, and actually I'm a good candidate and I'll represent your values? He can't just go out and say, no, Jasmine Crockett is lying, because remember, he's the straight white man, allegedly straight white man, and she's the black woman. So he can't just say she's bitter because she lost. He can't just say she's mistaken, because then he'd be denying her lived experience of real racism or whatever. So he has to find some way to convince these people that what Jasmine Crockett is saying is not true without saying what Jasmine Crockett is saying is not true. Do you see where the issue is? He can't make a convincing argument that Jasmine Crockett is incorrect, because that would require saying Jasmine Crockett is incorrect. But also, he can't win his race if he doesn't do that. Because again, he cannot make any mistakes. He cannot miss everybody or anybody. He has to bring everybody in. They all have to vote for him. We're going to dig into this in just a second. I'm running up against another break. I'm going to show you some of the videos. We're going to talk about some of the comments. This is not going well for him. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Alrighty, so we mentioned Talarico is having problems. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, we're sponsored by Deus Volt Lapel Pins. This is the Next Gen Report, Tuesday evening live. James Talarico has got to get out black voters, and they've got to be, passionate, like Obama 2008 passionate. Again, no room for error here, just so we're all clear. He has to get every black voter possible out to vote for him if he wants to build a coalition in the deep red state of Texas that has a chance in hell at winning. So that means he's got to get every registered Democrat to get every other person they know to register to vote and then go out and vote. He's got to get every black person that's registered as a Democrat to go out and do the same thing. He's not going to be able to do it. And Jasmine Crockett isn't making it any easier for him. There's a couple of reasons as to maybe why. I personally like to think it's because she's bitter, because I think she is, and she should be. I, at the time, said I think Jasmine Crockett is going to win. I think she thought she was going to win. I think she thought she was entitled to the win, and so now she's bitter because she didn't get the win in her primary. So she has gone out and said, I'm not going to go campaign with James Talarico. Now, I think that's a petty move. Just like I think John Cornyn is being petty right now. It's on both sides of the aisle. The loser of the primary is being very petty. So that takes away a key issue or a key asset for James Talarico, because he can't then take her with him and use her to hype up black voters, because she did to a certain extent hype up some black voters in the Democrat Party. He's not going to get the benefit from that. There's a solid case to be made that she's going out and working intentionally directly against him. That's going to hurt him even more. Now, he has gotten other people that are a little bit more politically savvy to kind of help him out here. Here in Houston, we saw an example of this. The kind of Rodney Ellis crowd helped him put together a rally, and they got a bunch of black voters out for a little town hall. And this could have been a great opportunity for James Talarico to work on winning some of those votes. The problem he immediately ran into is everyone that spoke before James Talarico at this event kind of set this up to be an interrogation and a grilling. And while they technically said, yeah, we're supporting James Talarico and we're black Democrats, so you black Democrats should go out and support him as well, every single one of them also couched that support on, but we would have rather had Jasmine Crockett. That's not a good place to be in. I didn't go to this town hall, but here is the article about it from the Texan News. A town hall in Houston on Sunday highlighted a factional divide within the Democratic Party as their U.S. Senate nominee, State Rep James Talarico, was questioned and at times rebuked about his appeal or lack thereof to black voters. Talarico defeated Jasmine Crockett with over 53% of the vote, while Crockett received nearly 46%. In Harris and Dallas counties, Crockett did receive the majority of the vote, 52% and 59% respectively. U.S. Rep Christian Menifee said prior to welcoming Talarico on stage, "I happen to be one of those people who believes that for far too long the Democrat Party has taken black folks for granted, and it's important to me that he understands the issues that are facing us today." So essentially what he's saying here is everything Jasmine Crockett has said about James Talarico winning because of racism is correct. The Democrat Party is taking you for granted, but he's here, so I guess while we've got him, we'll try to explain to him why you're also kind of important, I guess. That's not an appealing message. Who's going to vote for that? I mean, come on. State Rep Lauren Ashley Simmons, a Democrat of Houston, also spoke to those gathered to hear from Talarico, stating, "Now, I'm not here to hide James Talarico from accountability because the road to victory runs through Harris County. See, he's got to be accountable. He won because of racism. Jasmine Crockett said it. So we've got to hold him accountable. Sometimes people are going to check you and tell you your slip is showing, and so today we're going to make sure that James's slip is not showing." Simmons confirmed that she had voted for Crockett in the March primary election against Talarico, but said that primary fights are family fights, so we're licking our wounds on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we woke up ready for war. No, you didn't. And I know you didn't, because right now James Talarico is going and campaigning to Democrats. It's not the primary. He shouldn't be campaigning to Democrats. We're in the general election now. He needs to be campaigning to statewide voters across Texas. And instead, he's stuck in Houston and Dallas, two cities he's already going to win, trying to shore up votes from Democrats. So he's trying to get votes that he should, on paper, already have. And instead, he's campaigning for them. That's not a good spot to be in. He is starting behind the ball. On top of that, he's not making any progress. You probably saw this video already, but I'm going to play it again. This went viral. This is from that Houston rally. He got ready to leave this event, and one of the ladies at the event stood up and said, "No, you don't get to leave. You've got to stay here, and you've got to answer to us. We came to watch you speak, and we came to ask you questions to grill you. And so now you're going to sit here, and you're going to be grilled." Take a listen to this.
So you stay here, you answer our questions, or you suffer the consequences.
So I'm happy to engage.
When you talk to your staff.
We'll come to here in just a second. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you traveling in, and I
I
appreciate
did
you.
it for my people, not for you.
Wonderful, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. And it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. This is what this conversation's supposed to be about. Yeah. So one.
I didn't do it for you. I did it for my people. You need to stay here and ask our questions. La-di-da-di-da. All of this tells me he's not really convincing these people. He's just not. And again, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. And I'm probably going to say it 1,000 times. Start counting now. Go on Polymarket or whatever and start placing your bets, because you should probably take the over. Not sponsored, by the way, and I don't encourage gambling. But I'm going to say this a lot. James Talarico cannot afford to lose a single voter, let alone an entire coalition of voters, or even a decent quantity of a coalition of voters. Now, I mentioned that he had one of these in Houston and he had one of these in Dallas. The one he had in Dallas, I think, was arguably more interesting, because this is where he faced a real big problem for him. And that is, a lot of even black Democrats are not particularly interested in Talarico leftism. Most Texans aren't. And even the ever reliable, or in their perception, the ever reliable black Democrat isn't interested in this either. A lot of these people tend to be a little bit more, at least socially, conservative. And James Talarico's problem is he is anything but a social conservative. He's on record in the Texas State House supporting all sorts of left-wing nonsense, up to and including the farthest reaches of gender ideology, whatever term you want to put on that. And he was asked about this at one of these town halls by a black lady that didn't seem particularly interested in voting for him. Take a listen.
Are you for or against cross-dressing teachers in schools? I know that you said that you believe that there are 6 genders and Jesus is non-binary. And so in March, I had an ordeal at my kids' elementary school where it's very distracting. And so I wanted to know, will you be supporting those things? Because I don't think in elementary schools that is appropriate.
Yeah, I think if you enjoy cross-dressing, you should probably do that at home, not bring it to work. But I also want to say that there are so many cynical politicians who are using our LGBTQ community to grandstand, to score political points, to demonize and to weaponize.
So essentially what he said is, no, I don't support that. And let me speed past it real quick, because I really don't want this to be on record, because I really need the LGBTQ vote. That's what he said. Again, this is a problem. If you go out and say, yeah, everybody's teacher should be cross-dressing at work, you're going to lose black voters. And if you go out and say, no, you shouldn't be cross-dressing at work, it's fine if you want to do it at home, but leave that at home, the response from the LGBTQ crowd is going to be, well, this isn't just something I enjoy, this is who I am. This is my identity. I'm not just cross-dressing, I am a woman. How could you say this to me? And there you go. You've started to lose LGBTQ votes. And again, he cannot afford to lose either of these coalitions. And if you're a good enough politician, you can hold them together. James Talarico is not a good enough politician to hold them together. We've got a little bit more here tonight. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alrighty, let's close things out strong. We're going to talk about the communists, the socialists, whatever word you want to use for it. I think the line between those two things is far thinner and far blurrier than we give it credit for. But they are equally evil, and they are really evil ideologies. They are. We'll dig into it. This is becoming a bigger and bigger problem inside the United States. And that's something that if you asked me 10 years ago, do you think that'll be a big problem in the United States, I would have told you no. Now, granted, 10 years ago, it was 2016 and I was in high school and I was just getting started in my, years to follow of political activism. But even then, I would have told you, I really don't think even the radical left here is that crazy. And what we've come to find out over the, recent span of elections is that actually, as a matter of fact, they are. And part of that is aided by the fact that a lot of the American left is actually foreigners, paperwork Americans, so to speak, or their offspring. And so they don't have the deep connection to American values and American history and American tradition that we have, the things that rule out communism, because, their ancestors didn't fight and die for it like mine did, or yours probably did if you're listening to this show. But anyway, let's dig into this. To really understand why this is such a problem, I think it's important to reiterate something that most conservatives understand, but most people on average don't. Or if they do, they don't really think about it. We are not a democracy, nor should we be. There's a famous quote that I like to repeat every now and again. Democracy means government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But the people are retarded. And I think it's important for us to remember that. And that's the big reason, there's a lot of truth to that we do not have a democracy in the United States. We have a constitutional republic. We have sprinkled across certain areas of that constitutional republic some elements that are vaguely democratic. But we do not have a democracy, nor should we want one. I'll give you an example of what just kind of a pure democracy leads to. You've probably seen this already. The leader of Nicaragua, who has been in power for something like 20 years, he's 80 years old, he announced recently that they're not going to have any more elections in Nicaragua. Here is the video of that.
No volverán a haber elecciones. No volverán a haber elecciones.
There won't be any more elections here anymore.
Para que por ahí intenten ellos atrapar.
Because they're trying to seize the government.
Atrapar el poder.
And they, I guess, is the opposition party.
Y vamos a trabajar
We're going to work with
con las asambleas
the national assemblies
y con
and corresponding organizations on the laws.
las leyes.
Because laws need to be
Porque
made.
hay que hacer las leyes que
Let them
le
build a
pongan
wall, a
un
blockade
muro, un bloque.
against the coup plotters. That's the opposition party in Nicaragua. It's a coup. It's a coup, guys. And now we're not going to have any more elections. Now you may think that's not very democratic. Yeah, but that is the result of a pure democracy. It is. You get a party in power, and they have a bare majority, so they're in power, and they can do whatever they want because they've got the bare majority, and this is democratic. The people voted on this, so this is what we're doing. That's democracy, and that is democracy. That's why we don't have a democracy, because the founding fathers of this country understood that, hey, majority rule, mob rule is not good. Just because you have a bare 51% majority, that doesn't mean you should do whatever the mob wants. There are people pushing for this in the United States of America, a pure democracy in its worst form. And they're gaining ground. You've probably heard of them, the Democratic Socialists of America. They are all over the place, and they're winning elections. They're winning primaries, but they're also winning general elections. Zorhan Mamdani is a member of this group. I believe so is AOC, but I'm not sure. And then we've got a handful of other Democratic Socialists of America that have won primaries in various other places. Now, thankfully, for now, that's only happening in, radical left areas. But they are winning elections, and that is something to take note of. So who are these people and what do they actually believe? This is important for us to understand. We have to know our enemy, and these people are our enemies. Let's not make any, no beating around the bush here. They are our enemies. They are the enemies of our freedoms, of our country, our system of government, everything we have. They oppose it. And they are going to destroy it if we give them a chance. Here is some of their party platform. I actually dug into this. It's pretty insane. Democracy for all. So there it is. They're saying it right now. Full democracy for everybody. Extend full voting rights to all permanent U.S. residents. Notice it doesn't say citizens. All permanent U.S. residents. All right, so now how are we defining permanent U.S. residents? Does this mean for illegal aliens? Because they have no plan to leave. Establish statehood for Washington, D.C. Recognize the right to self-determination for all U.S. territories and colonies. Expand and protect voting rights and end voter suppression. What do you mean, voter suppression? What voter suppression? This is where it gets real crazy. A real democracy. And I'll note for you, this is the official Democrat Socialists of America platform on their website. There's no editorial here. I mean, this is what they're saying about themselves. For the working class to govern, we need a new political system. Whoop, there it is. End political corruption and legalize bribery. Get rid of lobbyists, dark money, and Citizens United, and publicly finance all elections. Here's where things get crazy. Abolish the Electoral College. We've heard this one before. If you're smart, you know why this is a bad idea. States need to feel like they have representation, even if they have small populations. Otherwise, the union dissolves. Replace the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to the Congress. Boy, have you lost your mind, because I will help you find it. By the way, they added down here, a Democrat Congress, replace the two-party system with a multi-party democracy, expand the House of Representatives, implement proportional representation, ranked choice voting in all elections, and abolish the Senate. So basically what this means is we're just going to have a super big House of Representatives, and they're going to pick who rules the nation. They will pick the president. They will pick who sits on the Supreme Court. That is insane. Here's why. And if you haven't studied history, you don't know this, but if you have, you do know this. All it takes is one party with a bare majority and one either ruthless or charismatic, but usually both, guy to seize the reins of that party and then completely take control. And that's it. You're done. You only have to win one election. If you don't believe me, look at Adolf Hitler. He won one election, and that's all it took. And then he just took control. Here's how this plays out. You have one party that secures a bare majority in Congress. The leader of that party will then presumably do whatever he has to do to get the other members of that party to vote for him in the House of Representatives to be the executive. All right? And then he will do all the political assassinations and backroom deals and bribery, et cetera, it takes to maintain that status quo. And they will make laws with that bare majority that benefit them and keep them in power. And that's how you end up in situations like in Nicaragua, where you've got a guy who has been president for 20 years, and then when it's convenient says, oh, by the way, we're canceling all future elections, and we're going to rewrite the nation's laws to do that. Again, this is what happens in North Korea. North Korea, technically, is a democracy. They vote for Kim Jong-un all the time. All the time. But he's the only candidate that ever wins. This is insane. These people are insane. This is the Next Gen Report. I am Ethan Buchanan. Thank you very much for watching the stream or listening to the podcast. We'll be back Sunday evening, 7 p.m. on AM 950 KPRC.